honestly, I never set out to be a millionaire. I mean, that was never a goal of mine, and it still isn't. Being a millionaire these days is probably not even a cool thing anymore. I think billionaire or trillionaire is the next goal. But my point is that I never chased the money. All I did was I focused on helping as many people as possible with the best quality products and programs as I could possibly produce at the time, given the skill and technical access to technology that I had. So that's what I'd encourage everyone to focus on. I see a lot of people, a lot of those young kids these days, instead of talking about getting a job, and making money, they talk about investing in something and becoming a millionaire, as if they're going to skip this whole 20-year section here where you're building and contributing to society and giving value in order to get something. So let go of thinking of, my point of view anyway, is let go of thinking of, a quick quantum leap to from wherever you are right now to being a multimillionaire, because there's a lot of work in between. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the work in between. Work hard, work smart, work every day, but realize it's a process. And the good news is that if you follow a step-by-step process, then once you get to where you want to be, unlike getting lucky with some kind of cryptocurrency or the latest app or what have you, you've actually built a foundation of products, programs, marketing skills, powerful friends in the industry. And if you had to do it all again tomorrow, you could.
Because as a hypnotist, if you focus on the mental emotional part of the work as a hypnotist, when you now round it out with this truly integrative approach, you make sure they have those physical structural things in place first. So they come to you for something totally different, right? So we work with a lot of entrepreneurs. Maybe they come to us for sales. Maybe they want to take their company from $1 million company to $1 billion company, right? I've worked with athletes, UFC fighters used to be my thing, right? And they were top of the line in the as an amateur, right? Undefeated, and then they hit the pros and all this mind stuff starts happening to them, right? Whatever it is. If you want to take people up to the next level, they must be physically, structurally sound in whatever your system is. This is what we use. These 4 things I asked you to write down. When they are physically, structurally sound in those areas, then they can level up. Then they can go crazy with all the stuff that you're already great at, right? I don't know what your technique is. It doesn't really matter. I'm sure it's great and it works for you. If you're looking for more techniques, you're at the right place. This conference, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Dave. Like, this is amazing, right? Like, what a beautiful thing they've done for us, bringing people all around the world, right? Some of you, I think it's like way past your bedtime. Others of you, it's still lunchtime. Like, it's amazing, right? That we have this opportunity to be here, to learn these things, to buy these recordings, right? And to learn more and to continue on to additional conferences, right? So you have techniques, you can have some more. I'm just going to encourage you to really stop tonight and notice if your clients came to the table having these physical structural things in place, how much more could you do for them mentally, emotionally? So if your first few sessions with them, even though they're here for something totally different, right, were to have them circle back to those foundational things. And as a hypnotist, you're great at working with helping people sleep. You're great at, helping people support their nutrition or their water, whatever, right? If you just took a session or two and had them back up and go, hey, let's just get this in place. Because once you got this in place, everything else we're going to do is going to be so much better. I promise you, your results are going to increase dramatically and you're going to enjoy the work so much more.
Don't think just walking into a dental practice, this is a 5-minute job. This has taken me years and years and years of slog. And, it's really not been like a quick fix. You have to, and that's why I say we're all in this together, because, we all need each other's help in this. We all need to be ethically minded about how we approach the medical and dental industry. We all need to make sure that our training is up to scratch. We sort of singing from the same page, and we're all in that same kind of belief system, and not going into a place where the medical and dental field are thinking we're all off the wall tricky, which is
That's
why
it, yes.
Dave,
Don't introduce past lives before you've got them on board. Yeah.
Exactly. And this is why Dave Elman, I mentioned in my talk on Friday morning why Dave Elman was such, in my book, such a hero, because he managed to move in a direction that even Mesmer found difficult. Mesmer was absolutely cursed to the ground with the medical and dental industry at his time, and they've been doing that, this up and down kind of thing going. Yeah, it's been going on for years. And you're right, Daniel. Brees is a dentist and he belongs to the club. But I'll tell you this about Brees, because I've worked with him now extensively for the last couple of years, and we've been doing so many things together. Brees is one of the very few doctors, dentists that I know that is really encouraging and understands our position as hypnotherapists and our ability and how useful we are in this field.
We realize that in parts therapy, if we can talk to a part, real or imagined, remember, and say to that part, this happened back then. Well, we don't know why. Can you tell us why? And sometimes the part doesn't tell you, and you don't get to know. It happens a lot. But we can then say, do you think you could let it go? Because he was 4 then, 37 now. What do you think? And the part goes, yeah, okay. And they get fixed. Now, we know that happens. We know it happens hundreds of times. I've been around the world, I don't know how many times. I've talked to thousands of therapists, and they've told me this is not anecdotal. This is evidence-based, because we don't need to read big books written by Jefferson and Drake about 2 guys that got together in Oxford and wrote a book based on something they did with 11 people. We get to work with thousands, and we get to find out what it really is. Our work gets called anecdotal, their work gets called evidence-based. I think the two are mixed up. I think their stuff is anecdotal at times, and our stuff, we're the guys who have got this evidence-based stuff. So we discovered that's what happens in situations like that. I can tell you very quickly, my world of hypnosis back then, one of the big worries I had was we did all our work by scripts. Now, guys, very quickly, I'm not knocking scripts at all. In fact, in my sessions, in my initial sessions, I am scripted. The rest of my work, I'm not scripted, but the initial session, when I see someone, I'm totally scripted. I don't read scripts. I know scripts. I'm a little bit more professional than that. I know all my rebuttals. I know everything's going to happen. Why would I do that? I want to do that because a year later, if you tell me I never said so-and-so, I can tell you, well, I did, because I can't do anything else but know so-and-so. If you tell me I didn't say something, if you tell me I did say something, I can tell you that I didn't, because that's just not a part of it. For example, and we'll keep this short so we don't have to use it. If I asked one of you right now to give me a number from 1 to 1,000, and you said 497, I can tell you immediately that the next number is 498. What kind of a genius am I? Well, that's similar, if you like. It's a very poor analogy, admittedly. It's similar to the analogy of being scripted. You know what you always do. You get on the train here, you get off there, you never make a mistake.
So thank you, everybody. And I've seen some people saying, yes, you thought Beryl was on now. And Beryl, unfortunately, is unwell. And she asked me to do this because I'm not sure if Beryl's watching this, but I know Beryl and I know she will not be wanting us to pity her. So I'm going to do something. And then if you can, I want you all to join me, because I'd really love it if she could see this, because I tell you what, this is going to make me feel better, because it's going to change my physiology. Because right now, I didn't realize that everybody was going to be watching this. And I'm like thinking, holy shit. Okay, because this is actually my first speech ever. So this is what we're going to do. I mean, not ever, but you know what I mean, as a keynote. So I'm going to do this. I then want you all to do it. And I know Beryl's seen this before, and I know it uplifts her. And I know she's going to feel awesome watching everybody else doing this. Okay, so my mind is still like water. My body is strong like a mountain. My heart is fierce like a lion. Roar! Who wants to join me?
Okay, we're ready.
Okay.
Get well, Beryl. Get well, Beryl.
Yes.
There we go.
Feel better.
All that love for you,
Wow.
Beryl. Here we go. So my mind is still like water.
Like
My
water.
mind
is still like
like
water.
water.
My body is strong like a mountain.
Like a
My
mountain.
body
Body is strong like a mountain.
My heart is fierce like a lion.
My
Heart is fierce like a lion.
We love you, Beryl.
We love you, Beryl.
How long is usually the length of an online course that you have found hypnotherapists or other people you are coaching, other hypnotherapists or coaches take an average?
Absolutely. So great question. It's Eugenia.
Yes.
Nice to meet you. So the question is how long? Like what length of time? What is appropriate? You might not like my answer, but it's the best answer ever. It depends on what it is that you want to teach. It comes back to those learning outcomes. What is it that you're committed that your client or your learner knows? Because they can be literally, I've designed some that are like 10 minutes. I've also designed some that are like 15-hour plus.
Does your platform have a deadline for that? Or
No.
you're open?
Yeah, no, they typically won't have a cap for you. However, that may be something that you want to look into if you know that your course is going to be multiple hours. That'll be part of your checklist when you go and look for a learning management system so that you can say, yep, this is indeed, that's important for me.
Sandra on Facebook, and I'm going to email you to get more information. I'm interested. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for your question.
I wanted to do something which was, it's what I call Vegas. So, you know, I just seen the triple handshake induction from a Tom Silver video. So I thought, right, let's use that. It's very quick, it's very rapid, and it's dramatic. It'd be a classic. You could look at the triple handshake induction as being a shock induction, which there are lots of rapid shock inductions. Most of them I don't like because I worry about the physiological ecology of it. You know, you've got that thing about rapidly pushing the person's head forward or whatever, or like literally having them fall backwards. And, you know, there's lots of things around that causing neck injuries and back injuries, etc. Whereas the only thing the thing that creates the shock or the surprise in the Dave Elman triple handshake induction is that you've set up the 3 steps, you've told them what those 3 steps are, and then when you actually do the 3 steps, you add something extra to the 3rd step, which is just to yank their hand slightly. It doesn't need to be violent, and close your eyes.
Can we start with Michelle's story? Because Michelle's story is how it all began.
For many years, Michelle's behavior was unacceptable, but it was misdiagnosed by at least, and it started way back in England, at least 5 professionals ranging from the Carl Shultron Children's Hospital in London, Surrey, to here in Australia, to the Bouverie Street Clinic nuns, the education department, psychologists, psychiatrists, 2 psychiatrists, and all of them said there was nothing wrong with Michelle that good parenting wouldn't fix. And some said it was because I went to work part-time. Some said I went to work full-time. They couldn't agree on anything. The one thing they did agree on was that if she did grow up and get a job as a dishwasher, she would be a very good one. And that was what I was left with. The diagnosis was And I'll always remember it, that confliction that you get when on the one hand you get confirmation about something, and then on the other hand, conversely, OMG, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I had to go to a couple of counselors to sort that out within myself, that how could I
have missed it?
Well, not only missed it, but thank goodness, when I was told Michelle had cerebral palsy, brain damage, intellectual and emotional IQ of around 40 to 45, dyspraxia and dyslexia. And you'll hear me starting to slur my speech a little bit as we go on, because I think that's unfortunately where she got it from. But immediately this emotion came up with me. Oh, gee, thank goodness it's not me. It was Michelle's brain damage that was causing so many problems. I mean, she was becoming very aggressive, very angry, and a little bit difficult for me to deal with. Anyway, one day we were driving along, and she pointed out the window to an empty paddock, and we were a bit concerned. What goodness is she talking about? An empty paddock. G'day, Shelley. I can see you just come in, darling.
Oh, Shelley.
Good to see you, sweetheart. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, going back. Now I'm off my track.
So the paddock, and she was looking out the window.
And Michelle got so excited. Anyway, we settled her down, and Jim and I got home and got her to bed, thank goodness. Had a cup of coffee.
What was she saying? What was the word?
She was saying, ooh, ook, urkus.
Okay.
It's indelibly engraved in my mind. And in actual fact, let me translate. It's not Aussie. It's, oh, look at the circus. But there wasn't any circus in this empty paddock. Anyway, when we got home, we realized, hang on just a second. We'd gone past that same paddock a couple of weeks ago, and there was a great big circus. There was the giraffe and the clowns and the top hat and all of those things. And then, we had this realization, hang on, it's Michelle's Michelle's conscious brain that was damaged, not her subconscious computer.
Glad to see you, Walter. Glad to see you, David.
Hey, Ron,
hi to everybody.
You hit on something really quick and you skimmed over it. Holding breath causes stress. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
I can, and I'm finishing up a video that goes into great detail about that. I had it done so that a couple of people looked at it and they said I talked too much on it. The phrenic nerve is what controls the diaphragm. The diaphragm controls the breath. So therefore, if the phrenic nerve is waiting on this rhythmic breath, and all of a sudden we purposely hold that breath, depending on how long we hold it, it's going to start sending a signal back to the limbic system that says something ain't right. This person's not breathing. So therefore, what we want to do, I just took that out because you automatically hold it anyway. I learned in anesthesia, you breathe in, but it's twice as long to breathe out. Well, it's not. If you breathe in, and you hear it, and it's through your nose breathing, by the way. Breathe in through your nose, you can hear it. Breathe out through your nose, you can hear it. But then all of a sudden, there's no sound. That sound is the next moment that the CO2 is building up to stimulate the phrenic nerve to tell the breath to breathe. You have to have the CO2 in order to get the next breath.
I did study hypnotherapy like 25, 30 years ago, NLP. But, what brought me on this journey probably about 15 years ago is because of my own chronic health conditions. And it just took me on a journey to seek out more healing modalities. Probably in the last 15 years, I was studying about, 3 or 4 systems of healing. I think in 2010, 2009, I started a practice after I started to study a bunch of just healing modalities like the UN method, body talk, vortex healing, also the theta healing, EFT. It's all because of just having a chronic condition or several chronic conditions. So it took me on a journey, and then it took me on a journey to go to India for the last almost 10 years now, which is to meditate. And in meditation, you start to discover a lot of subtle aspects of yourself, subtle beliefs. So even though I have the hypnotherapy, NLP background, I still probably use like maybe 10% of it might come through from time to time. But now the work is really about looking at just very subtle aspects of the mind. And our mind and body is connected, and we have a lot of programming and conditioning that has to be released. So in working with these people who are successful, I want to just share with you how you could be aware of these conditioning and programming, so that you could, either help yourself with some issues, or help other people who are in that situation.
They've got all the correct symptoms. They've got the chronic diarrhea or the chronic constipation. They've got the gut spasms, the gut pain, the gas, the bloating, the whole 9 yards. Well, if it's not caused by the food, and if you can't resolve it by changing your diet, what do? How do you help them? When I first was dealing with IBS, the IBS guru worldwide is a gastroenterologist in Manchester, England, by the name of Peter Horwell. And back in the 70s, I was naive enough to think that if I called him up, I could get him, this world-class researcher, on the phone, and he would tell me how to fix my IBS. And after 27 business days of straight calling, I did get him on the phone. And I know that his secretary was going, Dr. Horwell, talk to this woman. Make her stop calling me every day. And so I got him on the phone, and I was so excited. Oh my gosh. Here was going to be my cure. I was going to have my life back again. And he gets on the phone, and it's not a conversation, trust me. It's maybe 5 minutes of do this, do this, do this, don't do this, avoid this. And if they're close to 40 or over 40, don't take them. It's not going to work. Okay. And he hangs up. No. So I started working on myself. It took me 13 months from start to finish until I became symptom-free. Because remember now, there wasn't a roadmap. There was this one researcher who had written at that point one paper on hypnosis being helpful, not a cure, but helpful for his failed IBS patients. That's all I had to go on.
Well, I can just tell you that working with Olympians are just like working with any other people. I always say, I treat all people like athletes, and all athletes like people. But these Olympians, they have the same issues, plus some that everybody else does. But I think some of the process that I work with is, it's a little bit different when you get to these higher level meets where you're the Olympians, especially when they get to the final 8 at the Olympics, they're put into a room called the ready room. And so they're put into everyone else that is they're competing against in the world. And it's a very intense. It's a kind of a small space. You probably have seen some of this because there was some notoriety. There's been some, some different things that have happened with that between the athletes before they competed that was controversial. But anyway, one of the most important things I do is help prepare them for what their routine is going to be in that ready room, because it's really important that they stay focused between, if it's swimming, between those lane lines. And so focal techniques become really important, and being able to tune out, in their peripheral vision, anything else that's going on. And so we work really hard. Well, it's not hard, it's fun and easy, but I'll say there's effort. They put a lot of effort and time into doing that versus, just the physical and technical, going over and over how they're gonna swim, what the strategy is, because that becomes a little bit too much to where they become front brain and they're obsessing about doing everything correctly. And so that becomes a little bit different. And also the expectations become higher. They're not just taking their parents sometimes in their minds, or the expectations of their coaches, but they're bringing the entire country, they're representing their countries. And for here in the United States, we don't have that many spots because we have so many people vying for the spots. And so it can come down to a fingernail, so to speak, two makes a team. And so those are actually my favorite times to work, because we know that we want to make sure that each athlete brings their best, what they were capable of doing in practice, in their imaginations, and then some.
And I'll hit a little button here for a little bit of technology to make things a little bit better here. The theme of today is that of how we begin to make use of so many aspects of the legacy of Dave Elman's work. And I'd kind of kick this off with two things before we officially begin. And yes, today is If Dave Elman Ran Your Hypnosis Business. Two things. One would be more of a sort of a mindset around training and education. The other part would be a bit of a story to properly kick this off here today. In terms of education, one of the mistakes that I often see people make is that they look at the information that they're learning strictly through the filter of the content, as in, here's a method to deepen the hypnotic state. Here's a method for inducing the hypnotic state. Here's a technique for helping someone to quit smoking. Here's a technique for this. Here's a technique for that. And the issue that we run into is that actually begins to really, pigeonhole our learning in our journeys as professional hypnotists. So what I tend to say is often look at the bigger context in terms of what you're learning, what the things actually accomplish, what the strategies actually begin to create, and learning from this filter of not just the context, but also, yes, the content. So as you go through a training, perhaps, yes, we're learning specific methods for change. Yes, we can read the hypnotherapy book and go, oh, I can use this specific nuance for regression. And this is part of a story as to how Cheryl, Larry, Sean, myself, several others who have really gone through those original Dave Elman audios. They're kind of hard to organize for a rather positive reason. It's sometimes those little tangents. It's sometimes the way that he may be giving a lesson on this specific method, and suddenly it's this aside that changes everything you do. And he's talking about it in the context of a pain relief technique, and suddenly you're realizing, oh, wait, I can use that for habits and behaviors. And the real core of what I'm about to share with you of if Dave Elman Ran Your Hypnosis Business comes around from some of those very specific anecdotes, some of the specific quotes. And one of the ones that I consistently will use and absolutely love would be, if you follow my instructions, I know I can help you. If you're not willing to follow my instructions, I don't know a thing in the world that will help you, which is a bit of a paraphrase. And it brings me to a story. It's this woman, it's around 2015. And on the phone, the conversation about quitting smoking is going in a slightly different way than normal. I'm hearing a lot of the language of, well, I know I need to quit smoking. I'm not sure if I'm really ready to quit smoking. And that would typically be a red flag for a lot of us. But there's something about the other stories that she's saying, the specific intention as to why she's reaching out to me that specific day. One of the big questions I always ask in a consult is, why now? You know, what's the turning point? What's the reason that we're having this conversation right now? What's the impulse to actually be here in this conversation, even before you maybe even considered hypnosis to quit smoking? What was that turning point? And it's been 8 years at this point, so I don't remember the specific detail of that, but something told me to keep the conversation going. And so I say to her, quoting a paraphrase of a classic Elman quote, if you follow my instructions, I know I can help you. And a little bit of expansion on this one. If you're not willing to follow my instructions, I don't know a thing in the world that will help you. And I want you to realize that's a statement that has nothing to do with hypnosis.